Queen Elizabeth has left Buckingham Palace for the last time. Huge crowds watched as her coffin made its way through central London and down to Westminster Hall. It now lies in state, and Britons will pay their respects until Monday. The funeral will be attended by kings, queens, presidents and prime ministers, the equivalent of hosting more than 100 state visits at once, and combined this is arguably the biggest security operation the nation has ever dealt with.
As a single 3 or 4 day event, it's the biggest. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's comparable in terms of resources and people being involved as the Olympics, but it is compressed into a much, much shorter timescale.
Nick Aldworth finished his 36-year career as the National Coordinator of Counter-Terrorism Policing. He says authorities have been preparing for how to manage the events following the Queen's death for decades.
I had my first contact with Operation London Bridge in probably more than 20 years ago. It used to be in a lever arch file in my office, and we get it down once a year, we dust it off. All of the royal family have had a funeral plan linked to their passing for as long as I've had any contact with them, and I was responsible for looking after the Queen Mother. Even in those days, this was a family ostensibly in their 70s and above. There's a degree of predictability around the likelihood of their passing.
It may not immediately look like it, but old parts of central London have been redesigned to cater for these massive public events. There are bollards and security cameras all over this area, and large parts of it can be quickly shut down, like now. VIPs are going to be kept in their own little bubbles. The most high profile will get motorcades, but because there are so many heads of state coming here, quite a number are going to be forced onto buses as they head down to the Palace of Westminster.
There's no way across the road.
Where's everyone trying to get to?
The road's all sterile now.
What's happening with
But VIPs and dignitaries aren't the main concern. Officers are most worried about keeping the big crowd safe as people line up in droves to see the Queen's coffin. So is it worth doing?
Absolutely. It is. I would have waited 30 hours if I had to, the entire week, however long it would take, just to pay my respects.
What did the Queen mean to this country, do you think?
Oh, hell of a lot, yes, hell of a lot. I mean it.
And even in death, she's doing her public duty.
Worked just as hard in death as she did in life, I would say.
More.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's often joked the English are good at forming orderly queues, but this one for the lying in state really does take the cake. It's already massive, and at its peak might stretch kilometres up the Thames and over to Westminster. Authorities are preparing for it to run through much of central London at its peak, past the London Eye, London Bridge, and maybe even the Tower of London. The hundreds of thousands of mourners will be funnelled through a series of security checkpoints.
This then, on a grey, misty morning, was London's last salute to a king who was greatly loved.
Big lying in state ceremonies are rare. King George in 1952, Winston Churchill in 1965, and the Queen Mother in 2002 are a few notable examples.
We've managed royal funerals before, Princess Diana in 1997, the Queen Mother in 2002. But they took place against a backdrop of threat that evolved from what you might term as organised terrorism. You know, attacks were being centrally motivated, centrally directed.
Nick Aldworth helped oversee the response to the deadly Westminster Bridge and London Bridge terrorist attacks, and says lone actor atrocities have changed the way major events are managed and mean many more police and paramedics need to be on standby to react in an instant.
I don't think explosives is an issue here on this event, and we've taken care of the vehicle threat through the infrastructure that exists in that central footprint.
The security operation is extremely expensive and enormously disruptive to the city, but on the ground there is no sense of concern at all, or even much frustration at delays. Simply a recognition this is a major moment in British history that those here will remember forever.